Well, howdy, Steve. Boy, I'm really, we said it before, our series that we did on the fourth industrial revolution, blockchain, and Bitcoin, and a few other cryptocurrencies was incredibly successful. So we decided to do what?
We decided to add on a bonus.
Yes, we did.
And that's what this one is about. So our bonus feature for you today is going to be diving into the blockchain revolution a little bit deeper and let you know how you can invest in it.
Right. It's one thing to get all the education about maybe what is this or pique your interest, but how can I invest in it? Well, that is what we're going to talk about here.
Yep. So continue watching. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Terrific, terrific. Welcome, everybody, to the Steve and Steve Show. First and foremost, boy, we've really got some thanks for them, don't we?
Yep. Why don't you tell them who you are?
Well, I'm Steve Wastenberg, and this is...
Steve Walsh.
And this is the Steve and Steve Show.
Yep.
Why do we want to thank all of our subscribers out there?
Well, because they're our loyal customers.
Loyal customers, that's exactly right, our audience. And we just had a fantastic burst of both subscriptions and viewings on our channel. And it's all because of you all.
That's right.
And so we really thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely thank you. And if you know any friends that would like to push us over the 100 subscriber mark, that would really be helpful. So, Steve, we are drinking water today.
We are, because this is a serious topic today.
And you have filled my glass to the rim.
I did fill mine as well, but I actually drank a little bit before the show began.
Let me take a sip before we...
So you don't spill it? Yeah. I have another bottle here just in case you need it.
So, Steve, today... So, the last three topics, we did a mini series.
Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yep, and then we talked about blockchain, and then we dug into the cryptocurrencies.
Three of them specifically, but yeah, them in general. Right. We talked about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink.
Yep. So I think it would be best for today's topic to do a bonus round on the fourth industrial revolution.
This is almost like a surprise, but not. Because I totally agree. You all are going to get a bonus on this because, let's face it, we've talked about the fourth industrial revolution. We've talked about blockchain as being a huge part of that. And we've talked about three of the cryptocurrencies out there. But Steve, okay, it's great to talk about those things, but how do I get involved in that? Is there a way? Is it something we want to do?
Exactly. So that's the bonus round.
That is it. We're going to tell you.
How do we invest? How do we make money?
Do I want to invest?
Right.
Is it safe?
Right.
And on that note, anything and everything we talk about in this segment here that's the bonus is not financial advice. We're simply giving you a kind of education and our opinions, right? We're not financial advisors.
Right.
However, we are very involved in investing in this area. So
yep. And it's not our only.
No,
we're not all in on this, right? So the phrase is don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Don't manage risk.
That's right. And only invest in things that you understand and get.
That's right. That's right. So in that note, let's try to help them understand why maybe this could be a good investment and how if they wanted to do it.
Right. So let's start with that. I'm going to throw it to you.
Okay. All right.
You've studied this a lot longer than I have.
All right.
And I'll throw in my 2 cents when it's appropriate.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, and I'll look forward to it.
So the first part of this is how do we invest?
Okay. So because it is newer, cryptocurrency has a number of ways to get invested into it, and they call it onboarding. How do I get my fiat money? And when we say fiat, if you've looked at some of the other videos, that's the US dollar in the United States. It's the euro in Europe or wherever it is. Right. How do I get that money and buy one of these cryptocurrencies? And we're not going to talk about all cryptocurrencies. We really did introduce Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink. So let's just say I wanted to invest in one of those.
Let's pick Bitcoin.
All right, let's pick Bitcoin. So if you wanted to buy Bitcoin today, there are a couple of ways you could do it. And going back to that centralized and decentralized, it actually applies in this as well. Because just like if you were investing in the stock market, Steve, and you went to TD Ameritrade or E-Trade or Schwab, those are what we call centralized exchanges, right? They are custodial. Why are they called custodial?
Because someone has the custody of them.
Because somebody has custody of your money. When you put it in, it is your money, but they have custody of it while you're investing. Same thing, frankly, in a bank, and we talked about that in prior stuff as well.
Yep.
So there are exchanges for cryptocurrency that are custodial. And there's some risk in there. What if that exchange goes out of business? And there is some history of some of the early ones. Mt. Gox is the most famous, of a custodial business that went straight out of business. And a lot of people lost some money. However, over the last 11 plus years, that has evolved. And now there's some pretty solid companies out there with major kind of contemporary investments in them that are solid for the most part, if you want to allow somebody custody of your money. Two of those, for example, that I talk about in the United States are Coinbase, which many people know about, and Kraken. There are many others, and I don't those YouTubers out there that know the other ones. I'm not saying there aren't other ones, but those two,
or that those are,
or that they're the only ones
right,
by any stretch.
Not necessarily those are the best. Those are the ones.
Yeah,
that
no.
familiar, right?
They're just they're pretty well known, and you can go and deposit your money in your fiat, your United States dollars or whatever currency, and then you can buy Bitcoin or other altcoins with that.
Right.
And it's pretty straightforward. They do have something called KYC, which is know your customer. So you're not going to be anonymous. When you go and put in, you have to give them your identification, and also they do know who you are so that you can be taxed. Because let's face it, everything is taxation.
So these are institutions, right?
They are companies.
So it's like a bank where you may have a bank's app.
More like a stock, more like an exchange, like a Schwab.
Right. That's what I was referring to, a bank, because I think a lot of people know what a bank is.
Yeah.
Right? And so banks have the apps that we have on our phones that we can access our accounts and see what's in there, and we can move money around.
These have that as well.
Make purchases in some cases off those apps.
Yep. You can connect your bank to one of these as well to fund it.
Right. And that's where I was going to be. So you would fund it by connecting it to your bank and move it over, and then it's very similar to having another account. And then you can decide, because it'll be transferred into those accounts as like a US dollar if that's where it's coming from.
That's right.
And then from there you decide, I want to get into Bitcoin, Chainlink, or something else, right?
Yes, and that's a really good detail of it, because that's exactly what you do. You'll open your, let's just say Coinbase for the example here. You'll open up your Coinbase account, and then you will connect that to your bank account, whatever that is, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America. And then to your point, you'll take whatever money you want and fund into your Coinbase. Let's say it's $1,000. You can do whatever amount you want. And then from there, all of the coins that are available in Coinbase, you can start purchasing.
Right.
And Coinbase and the other ones are adding coins all the time that you can buy.
Different currency things.
And unlike a bank, more like something like Charles Schwab, you actually can see kind of some graphs and see how your the actual coin or token is moving.
So that kind of goes more along with if you were to buy a stock.
Yes, right? Exactly. That's exactly correct.
So people should probably be aware that it is like a stock, where if you let's say you put $100 in, and you put that same $100, you move it from the US dollar over to the crypto coin, and that crypto coin goes up by, if it was $10 a share, whatever,
a coin, a token,
shares,
a token,
right? So now your $100 is now 150.
Right.
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 And then you take that you sell that and you put it back into US dollars. Well, you have that $50 gain.
That's right.
Right. So now really you need to be aware that the governments are going to look at that as a gain.
It is.
So you depending on your situation, this is where you need to go talk to a tax person. How does that affect your tax situation?
It's going to be a capital gain, and it's going to be if it was within 1 year, it's going to be a short-term capital gain, and you're going to pay capital gains. Just as if, to your point, you had invested in Apple stock, and you bought it, and Apple went up 50%, and you sold the stock within, let's say, a month, you would pay that gain in capital gains. So it's very much the same. In fact, they treat these cryptocurrencies, they treat them as securities, just like stocks are securities.
Yeah.
So all the same laws.
So, and then just, we're not at 100% tax. So if you're gaining and paying a tax, it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. No, it's actually not. And the interesting thing about some of these cryptocurrencies is they will move. They are speculative in the sense that they can move very, very quickly, Steve. So you might buy one. In fact, I'll just give you an example as we're recording this. If you'd have bought Bitcoin, 2 months ago, you could have bought it at $9,000 a coin. Let's say 10,000 just to get my things right. Today, as we record this, it's at $16,000 a coin. So there's a pretty interesting gain right there.
Yeah. So
another way to invest, just to give them. So you've got the centralized or the custodial, where they actually have your funds. You're making the decisions, but they own this. And then you've got the decentralized or non-custodial, and there are a number of those exchanges out there as well. I will tell you straight up front, they're not quite as intuitive and easy, and you'll want to do your research on those before you just jump in. But you can do those without any kind of a centralized authority or a company behind them. One of them is Uniswap, probably the most famous DEX or decentralized exchange. And you can find that under uniswap.io. The other ones are coinbase.com and kraken.com. We'll put those links down in the...
And a full disclosure that none of those companies are giving us any
nothing.
benefit out of that.
And there are plenty of other ones, but those three are pretty well known.
So Steve, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's like if I have when we talk about currency, right? And I have a U.S. dollar. I have a few bucks in my pocket today.
Okay.
If I were to, go down the street and there's a kid selling lemonade, I can make an exchange there, right? Buy some lemonade, give the kid a couple bucks. And really the US government or whoever doesn't really know that transaction's ever happened, right? So how do I do that? And how do I, even if I had gold in my pocket, right? A gold nugget, I could actually trade somebody that gold nugget first for some chickens or something. And so how do I do that, or can I do that with something like Bitcoin, which is a digital thing?
Very, very good question, and it brings up a number of things. You'll hear out in the uneducated, and I'm going to call it that world, that Bitcoin, that's that anonymous digital currency that all the drug dealers use. No, well, no, actually, most of the drug dealers deal in US dollar cash, cold hard cash. Bitcoin is actually quite traceable, because it's on a public blockchain. It's on something where you can... Now, you might be semi-anonymous behind this, but if you have gone into something like Coinbase and you put all your information in and you started your transaction there, you can track it all the way back to that person. So it's not anonymous. Now, with that said, there are a number of alternative coins out there, or altcoins, that are meant to be anonymous kinds of transactions. I'll give you two. Monero, that's one that's probably the most famous, Monero. And another one that's actually in the works right now is a much more famous coin called Litecoin, which always used to be called the silver to the Bitcoin gold. And Litecoin is actually putting together an anonymous features to their coin. However, I have to say, if you bought it on Coinbase, even those, you're not as hidden.
Right.
You have to more like swap.
But there's no way that I could. It's always going to be on some sort of exchange.
Well, no, that's where the decentralized side comes in. And yes, there are ways of swapping coins, and you can be completely.
I'm not necessarily looking for that anonymous, non-tracking thing. I just want to know that because I want to get away from that custodian. Right? If I have a stack of gold,
I got what you're saying.
I can not that I do this,
Yes.
but I could have it in my house. Not that I do that because that's
which is a great segue into something like gold, right?
Right.
If you were to buy gold today, you could buy it and have them store it for you, and that's custody.
Right.
Or you could buy that gold bar, have them ship it to you, and hide it under your mattress or
buried in your backyard,
buried in the backyard or somebody else's back, wherever you want. And that's actually there. And I think your question is, can you do that with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can do that. So you might start on that custodial place, like let's say Coinbase or Kraken. You buy it there, you get yourself a couple of Bitcoin, and then you can move it off onto either an electronic device. One that's kind of famous is Trezor. There's a number of other ones out there, or you can even bring it to something where it's a paper storage, because they have what's called your keys, and this cryptological key is what identifies you on that blockchain, in this case the Bitcoin blockchain, where your money is being stored. And as long as you have that key, then it is yours completely. And it is something that you can pull off of the exchange, and it remains on the blockchain. And that blockchain, in this case the Bitcoin blockchain, is not controlled by any central authority. Okay. So yes, you can do with, let me back up on that, and I apologize if that was convoluted. Well, let me back up and say, you can do just what you're doing with your gold.
Yeah.
You could take your little Bitcoin and put it right next to it and bury it in the backyard.
Okay.
And have it.
And that was my question, right? Because there are some, we've seen articles where there are some apps or exchanges that that companies create, and people use them to become investors or owners of Bitcoin, and then those companies disappear.
Yeah, or get hacked and things are stolen.
Right.
So the key thing in that, Steve, and I'm glad you bring it up, is that custodial or non-custodial. So when you go on to something like Coinbase, let's say, it's very easy to connect your bank, get the money, and buy the Bitcoin. But you've got to remember that you're keeping it in custody. So let's say you do buy one Bitcoin, and today it's $16,000. And you can buy, by the way, you can buy $100 of Bitcoin, so you don't have to do it like that. But let's say then in 2 years, Bitcoin goes to $1 million a coin. And you say, I don't want this on Coinbase or wherever it is anymore. You can pull it off at any time during that time and have it in your keys, your custody of this. And it's probably a very, very wise thing to do if you're distrustful of any central authority like me.
You being the authority, or you being distrustful?
Me being distrustful of. You don't want me to be a central authority, period. But I'm very distrustful.
So, Steve, I have one last question around this, and it's really like, how do you view this as an investment?
Gosh, it's a great question. I personally, this is my own personal opinion, I view it as one of the neatest investment opportunities out there right now, because it's so new. Now, I will admit my aversion to risk is probably higher than some other people. There is a risk here because it is still fairly new, in 11 years. That's pretty darn new. But I think that, especially in the case of Bitcoin, it is shown that it has been very resilient. It has been able to overcome a lot of challenges over this last 11, almost 12 years, and survive, and not only survive, but thrive. So I do see it as a great investment opportunity. In fact, I look at a number of other altcoins, and Ethereum and Chainlink are two of them that I own as well, that I'm very interested in.
So are you looking for like a huge windfall potential on that?
Of course, El Dorado. I am. But I am utilizing my strategy that I wrote in my book, which is namely the property trading strategy. And I am looking at
the book's name is
my book, The Trading on the House, which I did for standard investments. But I also have a chapter in there about Bitcoin and gold. But I am definitely going in saying, all right, I want to expose my capital to it for a time. And when it gets to a certain percentage gain, I want to pull my capital out and let that profit ride. And so I think that's the safer way for me personally to do it. And does this really, is this an investment opportunity that adds to it?
I'll kind of give a different view.
Good. Please do.
Because I look at, and specifically around Bitcoin, not necessarily because I look at, there's two different kinds of cryptocurrencies, right? One is actually the true cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin.
Okay.
And I know there's others that are similar to Bitcoin, but then you get into more of the Chainlink.
That are utility tokens.
And I look at those utility ones as like more of a stock type purchase.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Bitcoin, I see that as along lines of an actual currency.
Okay, that's fair. I think that's very fair. Fair analogy.
So if I just focus on the Bitcoin, I would put it very similar in a category of gold and silver.
In what way?
And so with my portfolio of investments, I look at gold and silver as a protection of wealth.
Okay.
So a hedge against the market going south.
I got you. Right.
So I think Bitcoin has, because it's young, I think there's a potential of an upswing there than gold, silver, although I think gold and silver are really good buys right now because of where we're at in the economy. But that's the way I would look at it, is it's a smaller portion of my portfolio and it's a hedge against a negative economy.
Right. Stock market crashing, real estate crashing, dollar crashing. Exactly. That's fantastic. I completely agree with you. And if you listen to our earlier talks about Bitcoin has a lot of characteristics of gold in the sense that it's a very limited supply. It's very scarce. It's got the 5 qualities. I'm not going to go through all of them here because you have to listen to the other.
Our thing about what's money.
What is money?
Right, and we'll put a link in. We'll put a link on there as well. People can view that.
But it's a very much, the key I think is it's a store of value, and you said it. It's a hedge against something dropping off.
Right.
Gold has been around for 6,000 plus years, and it's still around as a store of value. Right. Bitcoin, while being very young, it doesn't have that pedigree, if you will, that gold has, but it certainly has the characteristics of gold in terms of a store of value. So I agree with you 100%, Steve, that it's a great hedge against this crazy world we're in today.
Yep, sure. Well, I think we covered a really good...
I think so.
There's a lot more that people can dig into and understand a lot more. And certainly there's a lot more that I could do to understand all about this blockchain and how it's going to change different industries.
Yep.
So encourage, you do your own homework and research on all this. Make sure you're not investing in something that you don't understand.
Reach out to us. We'll help you.
Exactly. So, but I think we covered this as a great bonus feature for our series. I'm looking forward to us coming up with a new series. I'm going to put a teaser out there. I think it's going to be along real estate. Cool.
And you guys throw comments at us as to some series or some show you'd like to see that you'd really like to see. And we also know there are a ton of people out there that are viewing this that just haven't taken that next step to subscribe. We humbly ask you to do so. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get the little bell that notifies you, and you'll never miss the Steve and Steve Show. What better thing could there be in the world today?
All right, Steve.
Cheers. Drink lots of water.